In Chinese folklore, the Ghost Festival, Hungry Ghost Festival, occurs during the 7th lunar month, when the gates of hell open and restless spirits roam the earth. Families offer food, incense, and paper money to appease these wandering souls. But legend warns, never disrespect the dead, never stay out late alone, and never, ever, respond to a whisper that calls your name in the dark. Every year, when the 7th lunar month arrived, May's grandmother would seal the front door with red paper talismans and burn incense until the house smelled of sandalwood and sorrow. The gates of the underworld open. Granny would whisper, her crooked fingers tracing the air in protective charms. The hungry ghosts walk among us. May, now 32 and a skeptic, had long dismissed such tales as folklore for superstitious peasants. But this year, she returned to her ancestral village to settle Granny's estate. The old woman had died exactly 1 week into the 7th month, alone, in the dark, with all the talismans peeled from the door. The first sign came that evening. May was sorting through boxes of joss paper and porcelain urns when the incense burner on the altar began to smoke. She hadn't lit it. The smoke curled upward, forming shapes, faces, twisted in agony, their mouths stretched into silent screams. Then a whisper, dry as autumn leaves. The gate is open. May told herself it was the wind. The old house groaned and settled, as all old houses do. But when she went to lock the front door, she noticed the red paint on the threshold, faded, peeling like dried blood. And beneath it, scratched into the wood, were characters she couldn't read. An ancient dialect, a warning. That night, she dreamed of a road stretching into mist. On either side, lanterns floated, pale blue, like will-o-wisps. She walked toward a massive gate, black as obsidian, covered in chains. From behind it came a sound she would never forget, the wet, desperate chewing of countless hungry mouths. She woke with dirt under her fingernails and the taste of ash on her tongue. The next day, the village felt different. The old neighbors who usually greeted her with fruit and questions now averted their eyes. Only Mr. Lim, the tea shop owner, spoke. "You shouldn't be here, girl," he said, his voice trembling. "Your grandmother kept them out. Now they know fresh blood has returned." Kept who out? He gestured to the calendar on his wall. The lunar dates circled in black. The predace. Hungry ghosts. They have mouths like needles and throats like furnaces. They can swallow oceans, but never quench their thirst. They can eat mountains, but never fill their bellies. And when the gate opens, he paused, his gaze drifting to the darkening sky. They crave the living. May laughed nervously, but that night, she didn't laugh. She was in the kitchen heating leftover congee when the temperature plummeted. Her breath fogged the air. The candles flickered and died, one by one, until only the red glow of the altar lantern remained. Then she heard it, a wet, smacking sound like a dog licking a bone. It came from the crawl space beneath the house, then from the walls, then from the ceiling directly above her. Open, open, let us in. She grabbed her phone. No signal. She tried the front door, jammed. The windows, sealed by invisible hands. Panic rose like bile in her throat. That's when she noticed the shadow under the altar table. It wasn't hers. It was too tall, too thin, with limbs bent at wrong angles. It crawled forward, dragging something heavy. A chain? No. A rope of matted hair. May grabbed a kitchen knife. "Stay back," she shouted, more to hear her own voice than to command the thing. But the shadow didn't stop. It rose, towering, featureless except for one detail: a mouth. Not human, not animal. A vertical slit, like a wound, stretching from its forehead to its chest. And inside, row after row of needle-thin teeth, dripping with something black and viscous. Hungry, it hissed. She ran. Up the stairs, through the hallway where her grandmother's mirrors now showed not her reflection, but figures, dozens of them, pressing against the glass from the other side, their faces gaunt, their eyes red with starvation. One of them smiled, and its mouth unhinged like a snake's. May locked herself in Granny's bedroom. The air was thick, suffocating. On the bed lay the old woman's burial clothes, still smelling of camphor and decay. And in her grandmother's final diary, written in shaking hand, were the words, "Day 1 of the 7th month." They scratched at the door. Day 3, I heard my mother's voice. Day 5, I forgot my own name. Day 7, I will join them. May, if you read this, do not light the incense. Do not speak to the shadows. And whatever you do, do not feed them. Once they taste the living, they will never stop. Too late. May had lit incense that first night. She had spoken into the darkness, asking questions, begging for answers. And now something pressed against the bedroom door. Not knocking, chewing, wood splintered. A skeletal hand, gray as grave dirt, reached through, then another, then a dozen. They pulled at her, their touch burning like frost. May screamed, but the sound died in her throat as she saw what stood in the doorway. It was her grandmother, or what wore her grandmother's face. The eyes were gone, replaced by hollow sockets weeping black tears. The mouth moved, but the voice came from everywhere at once. The walls, the floor, the very air. We were hungry too, little one. Every 7th month, the living feast and leave offerings for us. But your grandmother, she stopped. She sealed the gate. She let us starve. The thing that wore Granny's face reached out. May tried to run, but her feet were rooted. She looked down. Hands, transparent, ethereal, clutched her ankles from the floorboards. The ghosts had already been here. They had been waiting. So we took her. The creature continued, tilting its head until it cracked. And now we take you. May felt the hunger before she felt the pain. A gnawing, hollow emptiness in her gut, as if she hadn't eaten in years. Then the hands pulled, and she was no longer in the room. She was on the road again, the misty path, walking toward the black gate. Behind her, the door to the living world slammed shut. The last thing she heard was Mr. Lim's voice, distant, as if from underwater. The gate is closed, but it will open again. It always opens again. And in the village, as dawn broke on the 8th day of the 7th month, the neighbors found May's house empty. The incense burner was cold. The red talismans were gone. But on the threshold, scratched deep into the wood, was a single phrase in ancient dialect, the same phrase her grandmother had tried to warn her about. The hungry never leave. They only wait.